What's up with y'all? Swoop and Score back at you with more. So let's go ahead and talk about it. The Thursday Night Thrashing. Thursday Night Thrashing. Now, bear in mind, it's only preseason, okay? It's only preseason. So a lot in what happened last night was necessary. Though painful to watch, it was extremely necessary. Reason being, when you think about it, the Patriots played their starters for almost a full first half. That's not a good sign. Um, but hey, you know what? I guess they needed the reps a lot more. A lot of people are concerned about Jonathan Gannon's defensive scheme. But I'll say this. It's not so much the scheme that concerns me, it's the defensive line. Now, Milton Williams, I caught the game a bit late. I did catch the game a bit late. I think I caught it like maybe towards the end of the first quarter. But from what I saw last week versus this week, as I was saying about Milton Williams, it's not there. He's going to be a work in progress. From what I see, I honestly believe that Milton Williams is going to be a work in progress. Marlon Tuipulotu, no pressure. I honestly couldn't name the two defensive ends. I think one of them was one of the new guys that we drafted. Forgive me because I do not remember his name, but I mean, I think a lot of us would be forgiven for not knowing his name. He's not making a name for himself. This was an important game because this shows who's really going to be trying. You can see who was trying on film. It's pretty hard because with that defensive line, the defensive line is where the game, as we all know, the games are won and lost in the trenches. Okay, so in that foxhole right there at the point of attack, that's where games are won and lost. And clearly, last night it was lost there on both sides of the ball. I'm going to jump to that in a minute. But neither defensive end got pressure like that. And, seeing Cam Newton step up in the pocket the way he did was just, it was flawless. Granted, it was against, second string guys who were some guys fighting for a roster spot. Even some of the guys who got drafted are still fighting for a roster spot. But after what I saw last night and the lack of pressure was just abysmal. It was for a preseason game. That was abysmal. That was extremely pathetic. That was pathetic. Speaking of pathetic, let's talk about the offensive line. That was pathetic. The way that they got bullied and manhandled by the defensive line of the Patriots was utterly ridiculous. It was shameful at best. Here's my thing. I see Matt Pryor out there. I personally don't like Matt Pryor. I don't think Matt Pryor has that edge that you need for an offensive lineman. Offensive linemen, these are guys that they're killers up front. They are. The only difference between, you know what? I take that back. See, Matt Pryor has aggression, but Matt Pryor doesn't have any control. He doesn't. He's what you wanted Andre Dillard to be. You see, Andre Dillard has control, but Andre Dillard has no aggression. He has no bloodlust. See, Matt Pryor may have some aggression, but Matt Pryor, to me, doesn't have any skill. He doesn't. He does not have any skill. For everybody that wanted Joe Flacco to start, now granted, hey, you take with that what you will, but I'm not impressed with nothing that Joe Flacco has done at all since he was in, he got a spot taken from him by Lamar Jackson. He had his time to prove himself. Did nothing with it. Couldn't do it without that defense. Couldn't do it at all. So here we have Joe Flacco on the team now. And Joe Flacco's only highlight was a screenplay. That same exact screenplay that Quez Watkins scored on last season in December in Arizona, thrown to him by the one individual everybody loves to hate, Jalen Hurts. But I don't see that same recognition for Jalen Hurts and admiration like I see for Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco ain't the answer. And for the love of God, Nick Mullins is not the answer. And anybody who wanted Nick Mullins to start over, who thought that he was better than Jalen Hurts, take your hand and palm the side of your face as hard as you can repeatedly until it sticks that he ain't that good. I saw him in a clean pocket despite the pressure, because both him and Joe Flacco had to deal with it. I saw him in the pocket. He had actually some time to throw. Does this where he takes the ball and pats it every time, taking time off and just throwing the ball down the field. And I'm sitting there asking like, yo, where did y'all find this guy? Where? In what dimension did you really think that he was better than Jalen Hurts? I'd like to know. What hallucinogens were you guys taking who thought that Nick Mullins was better than Jalen Hurts? Who thought that Joe Flacco, whose only highlight was a screen touchdown that arguably anybody could have thrown that was his highlight. That's his highlight. That. So I don't want to hear this talk about how Joe Flacco is better, Nick Mullins is better. Neither one of them are better. All right. And God forbid anything happens to Jalen Hurts, but I'm honestly at this point I would prefer Khalil Tate and the quarterback from Wake Forest that the Eagles drafted. His name escapes me at the moment, but I would rather have them two than to be stuck with Joe Flacco and Nick Mullins, because that is pathetic. That was terrible. All right, that was horrible. God-awful performance from the two of them, the offensive line and the defensive line. Now, I've seen Alex Singleton out there doing Alex Singleton stuff, which is being in the mix every play, which is being around the ball every time. I can respect that from Alex Singleton. I like that from Alex Singleton. We saw what, Devontae Smith go out there and give us a snippet of what he's capable of, which, was nothing new. For the individuals who do watch college football, you know exactly what Devontae Smith was capable of. So that shouldn't come as a shock to anyone. But, in the whole Jalen Hurts situation just seemed odd. Like, if you didn't want to play him, that's all you had to say was you're not going to play him. I don't understand. The brother was out there dancing, but he could have been very much well sick. Could have been very much well sick. I ain't no doctor. I know I myself have tried to play through injuries when I was younger, and and try to act as if though everything was cool on my end until the coach pulled me aside and said, "You're not playing today." So I get it if that's the case. Like I said, I don't know. So that's just up for interpretation. Other than that, I don't believe in none of the backup quarterbacks at all. They all are horrible. I don't believe in the backup offensive line. It's terrible. I don't think that there's one guy on there that I would rather, I would trust to throw on the offensive line. God forbid anyone, knock on wood, anybody gets injured. But on the offensive line or on the defensive line for that matter, knock on wood, because those guys are a vital piece. And the guys that you had backing them are not good enough. They're not good enough at all. So, with that being said, the Eagles are coming up on their third and final preseason game against the Jets. They'll be holding joint practices throughout the week with the Jets. So, I'm eager to see what goes on. And I'm pretty sure a lot of us are eager to see what goes on next. With that being said, Ah, man, this is gonna be an interesting season. I can't wait for the season opener against Atlanta. Eager to see, just how good Jonathan Gannon's defense really is, with a proper pass rush. And that's not to sit there and rag on Milton Williams and Marlon Tuisalupu, who I believe can develop into that. But these guys are definitely a work in progress. It's much about those guys that has to change, and I feel like they'll develop sooner or later. But for them to be out there against the offensive line, the what could be the starting offensive line for the New England Patriots was a good experience for those guys, as well as the offensive line, the second string offensive line playing up against that pass rush of the Patriots, who probably could eventually end up being the start, if that already are the starting defensive line for them. So, with that being said, you guys let me know in the comments. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'm still learning the whole ins and outs of this whole YouTube joint. I'm gonna try to start putting some new content on here as well too, about past Eagles players, legends of the Eagles franchise. So stay tuned for stuff like that. I'm gonna try to start putting that in the works as time progresses. I'm not really gonna give a timetable right about now, but as time progresses, that's something I'd like to do. So like I said, like, share, subscribe. Comment below and let me know what y'all thinking about. All right, y'all. Y'all be easy.